episode 13 of season 3 of My Hero Academia. Now, this is the final episode of the first core, and well, I'm really happy we got this shit animated because it's just one of those things that I've been waiting for such a long time, like roughly a year I would say, because when I was catching up to the manga, when we got to this part, you were like, yo, this has to be animated, and not really for the sake of it being any sort of hype or there's no fighting involved, all there really is just a fun time. It's like the type of episode you just experience people having a good time, being introduced to this dorm that they are actually moving into and having them show off, what the rooms look like to every other student apart from Bakugo and apart from Tsuyu. Now, Tsuyu had a very good reason. I assume you could probably say that Bakugo did as well, but not really for the same reasons as Tsuyu. Tsuyu had a really good reason as to why she didn't really want to participate, because she was actually feeling really down because of what happened, because she was actually feeling really bad about the whole thing with the Camino arc, how she knew about it. She thought she could stop it by saying what she said, but it turns out, it didn't really do anything at all at the end of the day, and she really didn't like that. She felt disappointed and let down about herself, I suppose, and the ones who actually went, because at the end of the day, Tsuyu is a really good person. She means well, she speaks her mind all the time, but that's not really a bad thing. She really just wanted everyone to understand, and she wanted to make sure that they wouldn't go, because the pro heroes were probably going to handle the situation anyway. And she's probably right, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure, but I think Deku and the others being there, although they did help to some degree by actually clearing out Bakugo from the area, I'm just not sure, if they had not been there, would All Might and everyone else still have been able to do what they did? I think so, to be honest, but I think it would take a lot more effort and, whatever, because Bakugo would have to literally get out of there on his own, or he would have been brought along with them, which is of course not preferable for the heroes. Anyway, I want to talk the dorms, because I think the majority of this episode really focused on the dorms. Some of the students, they have really basic room, like Ojiro, and you have Todoroki, who wanted to decorate his home a lot like he has it at home, because that's what he's used to, and he may not be able to focus and whatnot on a normal floor and stuff like that, so he really went all in with his Japanese style room that he had. A lot of the characters, they obviously have rooms that are very much themed after, well, their personalities and quirks and whatever. Like looking at Tokuyami, his room is very dark, which, I guess they didn't really want to show that off because, whatever reason, but at the end of the day, some of the students, they were really impressed with his room, not necessarily because of the darkness, but yes, this stuff he had in there, like Kirishima, I think it was, this some sort of necklace or pendant, and then you have Deku, he's really fascinated by this sword, and Tokuyami, he's not having it, he's like, get out. But at the end of the day, everyone's fascinated with how he designed his room. So I think Tokuyami is just being too hard on himself, he may want to keep it himself, that's probably it, he doesn't want everyone else to know about all of his stuff, that he has in his rooms, all of his interests and whatnot. Now, some of the other students that really stood out were, of course, Sato, or Sato, and not really sure how you pronounce his name, the cake guy, the sweet guy, the sugar boy, basically. I really enjoy what we see from him in this episode because, we really get to see how he is really a nice guy, he likes baking cakes. It's not really a bad thing when you think about it, because it reflects on his quirk a lot. Like, he says that, buying sweets would be a lot more expensive, so from a financial point of view, he's really being clever about how he uses his quirk, because obviously the way you train your quirk is by using it more and more, and eating sweet stuff pretty much activates Sato's quirk, which means he has to either bake or buy sweet stuff and eat them. That's really how he has to do things. Obviously he could just eat plain sugar, but what's the point in that, right? You may as well have something that tastes really nice, and we get to see this really interesting side, how he lets every girl taste his cake, and at the end of the day, it really seems to backfire on every other guy, because they think, or well, they didn't think, but they feel as if it was used as an indirect bribe towards him winning this whole who has the better room contest, because that's really what they were doing in this episode. It was comparing, who has the coolest room when it comes down to everyone's agreement. But like, if we had to agree on someone who has the best room and they think, well, Sato, you let everyone taste your cake, so obviously they're gonna pick you, right? Don't really think that's the case personally, but that's really how the episode and the manga chapter approached this whole thing. I have two more people that I want to talk about that really stood out when it came to this whole dorm thing. The first being Deku. Now, what I mean by that is that, he is like the fanatic when it came to his room design, because not only is he a fan of All Might, and everyone knows that he's a fan of All Might, everyone's a fan of All Might, but he took it to a different level with his room design, because there's just All Might everywhere. Like, he has figures, he has posters, everything is just All Might. His whole room is themed after the guy, and everyone, they're like, well, we have something of a fanboy. Yeah, you could say that again. I mean, just looking at what All Might's been to Deku and Bakugo since they were children, it's not really a surprise to us readers, but I guess everyone in the class, they didn't really know just how much Deku looked up to All Might until they saw his room. Like, now they know this guy, he looks up to All Might on a completely different level. So as I said, there's one more I want to talk about. Not to say it's the only other with a cool room. Like, we have a bunch of students that really have interesting rooms in this episode, but I think the one that we need to talk about is Mineta, because although we didn't get to see the room, yes, the atmosphere and the approach he's taking to wanting everyone to see his room is just so sinister, but also not negative in a way, because as we know, Mineta, he is a comic relief pervert. Like, every manga and anime has one of those, especially when it comes down to something that relates to a school. And that's really what My Hero Academia is. It's a school anime and manga. And Mineta plays the pervert pretty fucking perfectly. Now, you might say he's not the best comic relief in all of anime and manga history, which is probably true. But when it comes down to being a good pervert, he is very relatable, because he is 15 to 16-year-old. And he is very much into girls. He will do anything to get, to see a girl naked or whatever, he'll do anything, literally. Like, this guy, he can pull some stunts, and you will be shocked at just how desperate Mineta can be at times. But it just goes to show you that, there are some people who will do anything, and I mean anything, to see them titties. At the end of the day, of course, we didn't get to see Mineta's room, and to this day in the manga, his room design is a mystery to us all. No one knows what his room looks like. It is a vast mystery that probably will never be answered at the end of the day, because I think this is just one of these things that will remain an eternal mystery. Every series, especially long-running series, they have this sort of thing where, they want to keep stuff to themselves. They don't really want to show the readers everything, and I think Mineta's room is just one of those things that we should never really find out about. It's gonna be something we can speculate on forever and for eternity. I really hope so, at least, because Mineta's room is just, it's such a dark and probably very sexual room. I mean, when I say dark, I don't mean like it's dark in the sense of Tokoyami's room. I mean dark themed, as in there's probably some extreme nudity going on in there. Like, you're probably gonna have some BDSM going on. You're gonna have some crazy fetishes being involved. And as we know, he has posters of Mount Lady, probably Midnight as well. Like, there is probably gonna be some really ecchi and some really borderline hentai material in there. And that's why we can't see this room, because it is just too much for a shonen to handle. But fact of the matter is, today's episode was Mineta's episode. Like, there's no way around that. He even went into Toru's room, to sniff them underwear. Like, well, I assume they're underwear because it's a drawer, and he was really into it. He can smell it from a mile away. This guy did not hesitate to go in there and just shout, plus ultra. Literally, he did that, and I respect Mineta for that. If you're a social justice warrior watching this, go fuck yourself. I don't want any of your bullshit here. Mineta is best boy. He is my god and savior, and that's that. So the last thing that I really want to talk about in general, which isn't really a room in the dorm, but I want to talk about like Tsuyu Asui. Some of you who watch this, especially if you're subscribed to me, you will know that I'm not really a big fan of Tsuyu. But in this episode, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I didn't mind what we saw. Like, I think what she did was very nice. We saw her cry. I didn't really care about her crying, of course, because, well, I don't care about anyone crying. It's not gonna make me cry, but I can really feel the sentiment still, you know. Just because I don't cry along doesn't mean I don't understand what's going on, and Suyu, she was really down because she was just, as I said at the beginning of this review, she was hoping that everyone else would stop their search for Bakugo and let the pros handle it. But at the end of the day, it didn't work, you know, everyone went anyway, and she obviously found out that they left anyway, and you can imagine when someone like Suyu, she's like one of the most innocent girls in the class, like I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with that. She's not a very guilty person, she doesn't do anything rude, she doesn't do anything bad in general, she's a very honest person, she's a very open and friendly person, she's very friendly and open to new people and everything like that. So when something like this happened, when she was pretty much ignored, at the end of the day, it's gonna hurt, you know, it's gonna hurt mentally, you know, psychologically, it is going to sting quite a lot. So I do feel for Suyu in this episode, regardless of what my opinion about her as a character actually is. Anyway, that's really all I had to say about this episode, so I'd love to know what you think down below in the comments, what you thought about this episode. Like, did you like it? Did you not like it? It's a very schoolish episode, you know, there's no action going on, it's just them showing off their new rooms, you know, getting accustomed to the new dorm that they're gonna live in for a very long time, probably all 3 years of high school. So, you know, they want to get used to this whole thing, and they have a lounge, you know, everything. It is gonna be a new way of living for everybody. So me personally, I really liked it. When I read this in the manga, I really liked the whole idea about them moving in a dorm so they could all be near each other at all times, and the teachers would have a much easier way of actually making sure that they are safe, especially at night and whatnot, so that, you know, a villain wouldn't come to their house and whatever and do shit. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember everyone, Toga is waifu, Toga is laifu.